What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have a reoccurring guest, Michelle. She was one of the first ones on the podcast, and you are a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information. You've been at this a long time, a mighty long time. I keep saying 15 years, but if you keep saying 15 years, eventually it turns into 16, and eventually it turns into 17. So I think technically speaking, I think I'm at like 16 or 17 years in the game almost because before tech and sports, I used to have another account that was a personal account. And for whatever reason, I thought in order to get a business account, I had to make a whole new account. So I did have a little bit of a time frame before tech and sports, and it was like my real name and my area code. Like that's how brilliant I was to think of my username back then. So I said, you know what? I can't operate in a business manner underneath, my real name area code. I got to be a little bit more professional than that. So I guess I'm probably, 16, maybe knocking on 17, but you're either 20 or knocking on 20, and you've been able to do this for 2 decades. A lot of people, they get worried and say, is eBay is forever? I'm scared about this, scared about that. We have almost 40 years combined of being on the platform. And in the beginning, it used to worry me. I'm not going to lie. I used to think, you know what, is this dependable? Can they boot me out at any time? Can I trust this? Can I build a business on this? Can I support my family on this? Now I have the confidence to do it. And I do think a lot of people struggle with that too. So, you've done this a lot of ways. You've had a few iterations of your business model, and maybe we'll talk about that today. Like, there's not one size fits all for every business model. Every business model works. We just have to figure out how to make it work. And I've done a couple business models myself. So, without further ado, Michelle, tell the fine folks a little bit about you, what you do, what you sell, and yeah, we'll have a good chat today.
My name is Michelle. I am a full-time reseller. Like Tech said, it's been about, gosh, 20 years. I remember when we first met Tech, it was like 15 years. So yeah, you
Yeah.
were right. Every time I turn around, it's another year. And when I call into eBay, they say, "Thank you for your service. You've been with us for, whoa, 20 years." I'm like,
Oh,
I'm feeling my age. That's so sad. I started out as a reseller of collectibles. I have sold because everybody was then. Like nobody
everyone was
sold
collectibles,
clothes.
huh?
Like
Wow.
clothes was a really niche product. And so like most everybody was selling their collections, their Beanie Babies, their it was known as an auction site.
Yeah.
Um, I started selling the week that they started requiring one photo to be put into the listings.
And people were up in arms, right? Up in
Oh,
arms on
oh
the
my
internet.
gosh, how am I gonna get a photo on there? I don't, we had to go to CVS and get
Yep.
our like film developed and then try to scan it into the computer and or take your flip phone and like take a photo, like a really great photo of whatever we were selling and then try to email it to ourselves. Like it
Or,
was crazy back
or
then.
the digital camera with the actual floppy disk inside of
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Crazy. It was crazy times. And then they charged us 30 cents a listing.
Okay.
So the initial fee was 30 cents a listing no matter what. So like if we're complaining about fees, can you imagine having your listing up for 30 days was 30 cents a month.
There you go. Plus
So
the final value fee and all that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like you had to be careful what you were putting up, or else like you had to figure out if you had someone up there that was like up there for 4 years, that wasn't worth it was 30 cents a month times 4 years.
Yeah. Or
So
if you were selling something for $5 and it took 10 months, you're underwater on that
I
deal.
know exactly 90% of our stuff we were like underwater in, and so it was wild times back then. So I started out in collectibles. I moved over. I was like, okay, I'm gonna niche down. I'm gonna make this into a real business. So I was like, DVDs and CDs. That's okay.
Oh,
I
I
could do
didn't know
that.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, then iPads and iTouches and all the things started coming out. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad.
Oh, the
Um,
death of the DVD once all the
yeah,
items
I
started
thought
coming
it
out.
was gonna be like the Yellow Pages, man. And so I was like, we're gonna have to pivot out of here. Who knew that people would be nostalgic about
Sure.
CDs, DVDs? Like people are still running majorly huge businesses on CDs and DVDs. So like we don't want to discount them.
No. But
Um,
what you're saying is if you would have stuck with it, you were first to market. Instead of Music Magpie, it could have been Michelle Magpie. You could have been sitting here with
I
a
I could have an empire. I could have an empire out of my garage. So who knew? Yeah, I was like, I got freaked out. And I was like, all right, I need to pivot again. I went to books for a while, and then I did China, like hard goods, like grandma's China,
Yep.
and flatware. That was interesting. I made a couple of like cross country moves with all my inventory,
Oh, with
and
China?
so with China, a
Oh,
truck full of China.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
didn't break one thing.
Really?
That's how good I am. Yes.
Like a U-Haul of China. I could just imagine the
It was a
rattle.
It was a 16-foot Penske truck full of my inventory
Wow.
to get it from Georgia to back here to Idaho. So yeah.
Hey, that's a round of applause.
It
That's talent.
was 16 feet. Yep. It was packed.
Around mountains, across
Oh
streams and
yeah.
rivers. Like you're
Yeah.
there.
I was there. I was on Route 66 for a while. Yeah.
Wow.
I went through St. Louis. Yeah. Like I did all across the Rocky Mountains.
That today, that would be a 1 million view YouTube video. Can I drive a Penske from coast to coast and
I
not
couldn't
break
even get the
anything?
dang thing open at night. Like when I would stop, it took me 6 days to get across, and I couldn't open up the back. So
Oh,
something was stuck. So I didn't know. I didn't know like if I opened it, I would just have like a wall falling on me or how that was going to work. And I ended up breaking one thing, and it was my own platter out of my own dishes, out of like my stuff. I didn't,
wow.
not one piece of inventory got broken. So
That's incredible.
I know it was crazy. But okay, so then I did that for a really long time. I really liked it. I didn't like the shipping of it, but I mean, I was pretty good at it. So it was, and then I switched over to clothes when they started charging us final value fees on shipping. And
Uh,
so I thought I need to go to something that's a lighter weight because of percentage wise, it ended up being expensive with a really heavyweight object to get your buy cost, which is interesting because we're going to talk about that a little bit hopefully. Like you're paying a percentage of your shipping cost on top of everything else.
sure.
So I wanted to go to a little bit cheaper shipping cost so it wouldn't factor in as much.
So just to bring people up to speed, if you sold something for $10, you would pay 13%. So they would be $1.30 on the actual product. And then if you had to charge $10 to ship that, you're
Right.
getting whacked for another $1.30. And if you charge $100 in shipping this week, you're losing $13, so on and so forth. So that played a consideration in pivoting because the high shipping costs, you were coming out of your pocket a certain percent to
Right.
ship the items to the customer, and that's going to negatively affect the margins as well.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was negatively affecting my cost of goods plus my overall, yeah, my margins there. So I shifted over to clothing. I had dabbled in clothing a little bit. I knew people that were successful in clothing.
Hmm.
I knew of a reseller that had made, and honestly, what pivoted me over completely, where I was like, all right, I'm all in on the clothing, is who later became a friend of mine, had made $50,000 in 3 months in 90 days with just clothing
Sales?
sales.
Okay.
Now, this was back in the days when, like, that was a lot
Sure.
of money.
Sure.
50 grand, and nobody was doing that. You were doing that, but we
But
didn't
no,
do
nobody
that.
knew though. I was
Nobody,
just doing it.
you were head down thinking everybody was doing that.
Yeah.
I was in like the community rooms and nobody was doing that.
Wow.
So everybody was like, how did you do that? How, like, what did you do? How are you making all this money? And so I was like, all right, if she can do that, I can do that. I'm gonna go all in on this side. And with just clothing, I think I can do that. So, and the margins were really high. I could get them really cheap. I knew, like, I didn't know anything about fashion then. I
Oh,
didn't know
really?
anything, nothing.
Oh, because with the knowledge you have, I thought maybe you kind of knew a little bit about it. Because I talked to Rachel the other day on the podcast, and she comes from like a fashion background, a
She has a
fabric background.
degree.
Oh,
Yeah.
you had no idea about fashion or anything?
She had a degree. She has a degree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she has an
She
actual
has,
degree.
yeah.
Oh,
No, I'm
I thought
self-taught.
maybe it was kind of like a little bit of a passion growing up or something that you enjoyed or liked, but absolutely not. Same with me. I could care less about clothes. I know about them, but I could care less.
Yeah, no, I have no
Oh,
desire to like, all right, dude, this is embarrassing, but like I'm wearing my little denim shorts and then I'm wearing my little compression knee socks, using my like old lady socks.
so that right there,
Like,
that's gonna be Michelle Core. That's gonna be
that's
on TikTok
Michelle
in 2
core.
weeks.
This is my keyword. This is my granny core. They have stripes. They're semi-fashionable,
There you
right?
go. A
Right?
good keyword. So that's interesting. So all right. So you started clothes day one, without any kind of knowledge, and you just kind of had to figure it out as you went. Did you go straight into women's? Did you do men's, or how did that work out?
I started in actually what's weird is I started in our version of the bins here in Boise. We don't have Goodwill bins here, but we have one of the like little mom and pop nonprofit stores has a version of the same thing. And so the first time I walked in there, it was like they had these bins of clothing and then they had these like bins of the hard goods. And so I kind of perused the hard goods and I looked over at these piles of clothes and it was like, that is the saddest place I've ever seen. Like it was
Oh,
just sad in there because like you look at these clothes and it was still eBay was pretty young in the clothing game. There was not a whole lot of social media about clothing sellers making it big, other than, and I wasn't doing clothes, I was still doing China back then and some collectibles. And so then a couple of months later, I was like, all right, I'm gonna pivot over into the clothing area. I went back in there and started digging through, and I was like, okay, I I don't know what I'm looking for. And so I just started pulling like all new with tags.
okay.
Anything that was new with tag. Because I figured, like, then I don't have to worry about flaws. I don't have to worry about washing the stuff because it's
Hmm.
like new with tags. And
Sure.
so anything that was new with tags would go into my basket. And that's how I started with clothes. And then I realized a lot of that new with tags was just garbage. And sold at the flea market new with tags. I didn't know anything about brands.
Right.
Um, and then what happened? Where did I start switching? Oh, then I wasn't getting enough stuff, and the stuff I was getting wasn't like generating enough money. So I was like, all right, I need to go over into the used market, like, so I can get better brands. It means that I have to be a little more discerning. So I'm gonna go crazy and do like Old Navy and up. Like I knew that there was mall brands, and I knew that there was Old Navy and Gap, which was kind of below mall brands.
Hmm.
And then I knew there was like Target brands. I knew most of the Target and Walmart brands because those are the brands that I wore. So
So back then, Target, Walmart, stuff like that, did they have actives and solds? Like I can't remember back then. How did we figure out that stuff would actually sell? Was it we listed it and it sold, so we went out and bought more? That's pretty much how I remember it. Like I like Tommy Bahama. Like I kind of knew it was expensive. I listed it, it sold, so I went back and bought another one.
I remember being able to look at soles when I started doing clothing. Um, because I've always been a researcher, so like
Okay.
they've always had soles on the site. Like you could always look at it. I don't think it was as advanced as. Oh yeah, they used to have like these crazy graphs and not like of traffic and or yeah, your traffic reports were like dot matrix type.
I think they might have had solds, but I just wasn't smart enough to grasp what it was. Like, this is the actual market and this is what they're actually selling for. I don't know if I put two and two together right in the beginning, where I think what I would do is I would look and see what other people are listing it for, and I would kind of either go a little bit below them or match the price. And then when it's
Right.
sold, I would say, okay, let me go out and try to find that again and try that again, especially items that sold really quickly. If it sold really quick, I said, okay, I used to drop what I was doing and let me go try to find that again. And I used to go out to the thrift store and try to find it again. And then I guess one day I had to stumble across the solds, and then that probably was like a new enlightenment, the opposite of looking in the room and seeing a bunch of sad clothes. That was like now the clothes are like beaming with gold in there, that now I can see like, hey, this is a market. These things have some potential here.
The first piece of clothing that I ever sold was a pair of pants that were mine, that I had thrifted for myself. They were Banana Republic pants, and I got like $11 for them on auction. And I was like, oh my gosh.
You were like, this could work.
This can work because like if I were to garage sell these pants, I'd get maybe 25 cents for them.
Sure.
I made $11 off those pants. I was so excited. I was like, yep, this eBay thing is gonna work out.
I
So
think my biggest this is going to work out moment was um, I did the electronics, and when I bought the T-Mobile Sidekick, and I put another one on eBay, and it sold like immediately within like a couple of hours. Something clicked immediately that this was going to work out. The clothing portion, that this was going to work out. I kind of stumbled into clothing because I was flat broke, and I was selling my old clothes that I had from high school. So like you're talking maybe 7 years later, I was selling clothes that I still had in my closet from high school. And I listed a football jersey that I sold for 78.88 within one day. It just so happened that guy was getting inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame that week.
wow.
And so that was like a happenstance. But my wife was like, and I was talking to her. I was like, and she wasn't my wife at the time. We were living separate. And I was like, hey, I need to go out and find more jerseys. Like people want jerseys. It's obvious people want jerseys. So
Right.
I went to the thrift store and they had a Dan Marino Wilson that for $5. And I remember selling it for $250.
Holy moly.
And I was like, oh, there's something here with this clothing thrift store thing.
Yeah.
And I don't have to test it. There's no customer service. There's no tech support. There's no parts or pieces. There's no breaking in the mail. There's none of that. There's no, I sold an iPhone for 400 and now I get kicked when they want to return it and they're going to return it and the screen's broken. I was like, this is a piece of cotton that I paid way lower than I would have to buy an electronic for, and this thing sold for a tremendous price. And
Exactly.
so that's why the name is Tech and Sports, because I used to do a lot of electronics and then I did jerseys. And then after I did jerseys, I started branching out into other things like you're talking about. And then, hey, maybe people buy polo shirts, maybe people buy t-shirts, maybe people buy Tommy Bahama. And then that's how I got into it. But the the light bulb moment for the T-Mobile Sidekick was like, I can sell stuff online. The moment there was the same moment that you had. A T-Mobile Sidekick locally on Craigslist is 35 bucks. A
Right.
T-Mobile Sidekick to the United States of America was 75 bucks. A
Right.
Banana Republic pair of pants in your driveway is 25 cents.
Yep.
Banana Republic to the whole world is $11. So I made that connection really quickly. The clothing one was I paid five for this thing. It sold pretty quickly for a big price. And I
Yeah.
said, I need to go out and go do this again as many times as I possibly can.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't really I was doing men's and women's for a long time out of the bins. I didn't care. I was non-discerning as far as that goes. When I started actually doing the thrift store model, and going into the thrift store, I was pulling mainly from men's because the returns were less for men's. And I felt like the bang for the buck was higher.
For men's,
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Like guys are, to me, I've always been kind of a lower end seller. And so I knew that I could pull some anchor blue cargo shorts, like bottom of the barrel Kohl's. And the guy in wherever always that wore anchor blues
yeah, he's
was gonna
looking for
buy
those.
those.
Yeah,
Yeah, he'd be
there's
looking
guys
for 'em.
out there looking for anchor blue cargo shorts.
Yeah,
Right.
so so if I could list enough anchor blues, old navy pants, those, you know, lower end items that I could get for $1 at the Goodwill on dollar days. If I could churn enough of those out, I could make a living, and I've been doing it that way for a long time. It's not easy.
Sure.
It's an interesting road. It's kind of interesting to when I met you, I think is when I found out I never really thought about my model as being a model of business other than I was making a living, right?
Gotcha.
And I knew that I wanted to have like that lower end kind of stuff going on with a few like really high end things in there so you get
Hmm.
excited every once in a while. Um, Almost.
Okay. We could hardly even hear him. He's a coworker.
Coworker. He's my coworker and friend. If he does not go outside and bark and yell at people, he gets a treat.
There you go.
So, yeah, I'm not feeding the beast for him to bark. I'm feeding the beast to keep him from going outside and yelling at them from the fence.
So you have concentrated on the like you said, a little bit on the lower end of clothing, which would
Right.
be probably more of a bulk model. It's going to be
Yes.
maybe more photos, more processing, things like that. And it's interesting because like we had a good conversation with Isaiah this morning on the morning call, and I think a lot of people wrestle with that is I've always looked at it as best stuff, best price rather than best price and then get the best stuff that I can at that best price point. So I think
Right.
there's two different ways of looking at it. And I don't know if one way is wrong per se, because every business model works. It doesn't have to be 8 into 30, it doesn't have to be 5 into 20, it doesn't have to be that. Every single business works, and every single person who listens to this, if we had a magical product where we could sell it for 99 cents and we can sell 1,000 a day, we would all sell it and it's 99 cents. Who cares? It's 99 cents. We pay a penny for it. We make $800 a day profit after fees, free and clear. But
The
our average
dollar
sale
store
price
has
is
been doing
99
that for
cents.
years.
Yeah. Our average sale price is 99 cents. You post that on social media, they laugh you out of the room.
Yeah.
But you're sitting there making all the money. So there's every single business model works. We just have to figure out how to make them work. And I think that there's pros and cons to both of them. So best stuff, best price for me, as a result of that, at the peak was 55 thrift stores, 3 flea markets a week. Saturday and Sunday, I had to go to 2 different flea markets. And then I would come home, do all my work, do all of my processing. If you look for best price and then best stuff, we're probably both going to work the same amount of time. Just the work in that model is going to be maybe a lot more processing, maybe more prep, maybe more photographs than the person who would have double the average sale price. Like if your average sale price is 15, there's this 30, you got to list 2 to 1 every single time. Where if you can hack it, you could do it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that model either. Just the model that doesn't work, where people struggle, is low volume, low margin. If the margin's going to be low and our output is low, that doesn't work. So we have to figure out, I talk about this with Hanley, we have to choose our hard. We have to pick our hard. What part of the business do we want to be hard? Because we're going to work no matter what. For me, I worked on the road, running through the racks, going as many places as possible. And then I came home and did a bunch of work too. Whereas even if you get stuff for the best price, you're still going out working, going to get it, because you're going to have to process a lot. Like Isaiah said, for him, he has the opportunity to get shoes for very cheap on a pallet. However, facilitating that pallet is still work. Like it's still going to take time to get it. And then he's got to come home, and maybe the shoes aren't as good as a fully prepped garage sale one, a fully prepped flea market one, maybe some donated to the thrift. But the price is going to be higher. So, all the models work, and you're a testament to that. You've named off 10 different models, and you've been making a full-time income on eBay for 20 years. Like it's not
You
that's
did
nothing.
one model for the past like 20 years and it's worked so well for you. I've done like 700 models.
Right, but you've also been able to pay your bills all this time,
Well,
and that's
yeah,
nothing to shake a stick at.
I know. I know.
So like,
I'm still trying to get to the level where like I can buy my house and do all the things that I want to do, and I don't want to be slogging through thrift stores when I'm 80. So I'm kind of
mhm.
like thinking along those lines, and so I struggle. Isaiah did bring that up today, and I was like, yeah, I wanted to actually talk and really have a conversation with Tech about this because I struggle with this too. It's like, which is going to earn me the most money? I need the most money right now because I want to buy a house.
Mhm.
And so I have a big need to be able to earn money quickly. Um, but I also am to a point where like I get my stuff delivered to me. There's
Mhm.
stuff like it's not the worst stuff. It's semi-curated, but it's not the greatest stuff. It's not hot garbage most of the time. It's workable. A lot of Forever 21 in there. There's a lot of like lower end brands in there. I can flip that stuff. I know I can flip it. I know the keywords to get it gone. But I also wonder, is it worth the processing time and energy and and tenacity probably to be able to process it at a volume and keep up that volume for long term. Like
So like when you say process it, what part of the processing takes a long time? This because so it gets delivered. It's probably at a lower price point delivered. But also like you said, it's a lot of Forever 21. So is the processing part, prepping it, getting ready to list, or does that include, I guess, the final sale? Like it's a little bit of a slower sell through as well.
it's a little bit slower sell through, but you still have to wash it. You still have
Sure.
to like put it on the mannequin. You still got to take the pictures of it. You still have to list it. It takes just as much time as a higher end item. Um, and again, yeah, it does end up being on the shelves a little bit longer if I can sell things for Because I've been doing it for a long time, I work through keywords constantly. So
Hmm.
like I've worked my way through years of keywords. I'm still working through keywords to pull my buyer to me. And I'm good at it. So I know I can flip most of it in a timely manner. There is probably out of every box of items, maybe 10 or 15% of it that's not worth my time, and I know it's not worth it. Used to be worth my time.
Hmm.
I used to do sew the button. I used to do, and then after you develop a stride and you're making a little bit of money, then those things, spending a half an hour detailing a sweater isn't nearly as attractive as just putting it back into let's donate it locally, it's fine, get it out of here. Um, so I do glean off about 10 to 20% of those boxes into redonating and getting rid of, and then the rest of it gets listed. But then I have to look at brands and sell-through rates and things like that. And I'm wondering at this point, do I go back out in the thrifts and cherry pick? I'm really good at that now. Being in
Well,
the
you,
group
you
has
did that
helped me a
about
lot.
10 months ago. You remember you went out, you
I
hit a
did.
route, and you came home with, you know, uh,
I was pulling 5 into 30, 5 into 30, 40. I mean, I was able to come home and I stayed mostly in the menswear, but like I can do that with the women's too. I know it sells. So do I go start doing a thrift route again? Which I haven't done since COVID started, honestly. And really cherry pick and spend my budget on a more curated higher end stuff? Or do I continue with the boxes, which is a mix?
mhm.
And the mix is from the Forever 21 all the way up to really high end $400 and $500 items, depending on what I get. And most of them are in decent shape, so it's not a matter of like I'm not buying bales.
Sure.
But I'm buying, a mix of brands and depending on the keywords, and so I can make probably making between 8 and high ceiling. My average cost of or my average sale price is like 21 right now, including shipping.
Gotcha. And then the
So
cogs would probably be like sub
my
$2,
cogs are
right?
like sub $2, yeah,
Yeah.
so like $1.70 maybe.
Hmm. So probably like a $10 profit each, all said and done on average,
Yeah,
most likely.
probably right in
But
there.
so I guess, all right. So if you were gonna hit the thrift route, would it be to list the same amount that you do today, or would you bring the listings down since those items are more profitable? Because if you're
Um,
going to hit the thrift route, do you want to make the same amount of money or more money? What would the plan be for that? Would you maintain the same listings, or maybe you'd have to list half the items? Because all of this work is taxing in one way or the other. So for right now, the taxing work in this model is a lot of processing, a lot of prep. The
right, but
taxing
no
work
shopping.
for, huh?
But no shopping.
No shopping, right. The
Yeah.
taxing work for the other one is getting out there and having a thrift route. So then now we have to figure out for the thrift route, what does the thrift route look like? Can you go to one store and get enough for the week? I don't know. Can you go to three or four or five, or is it going to take 20 stores to get enough for the week?
Right.
So like what does the model look like where you're getting higher quality stuff, higher profit stuff? If you're listing, you know, 140 a week, which is 20 a day right now at $10 profit, do you now list 70 a week at a $20 profit? What does that look like?
I think it would, I think I would have to pull my listings down a little bit. because I would be spending a lot of time out. That's the problem.
But how much time do you spend prepping though? Is it the same amount of time, or are you just moving
Well,
Michelle from in the
yeah,
house to out the
because
house?
I mean, we have to wash our clothes. Even if I brought
Sure.
it to the thrift store, I'd still have to wash it, I'd still have to photograph it, I'd still have to,
Yeah.
like, the prep time, I think, is pretty much the same. It's not like Isaiah and his shoes where, they come in covered with mud and I have to, like, sit there and scrub them for 20 minutes. I mean,
Yeah, because like with shoes, the price point a lot of times is going to be dictated by the condition. Where
right.
clothing, it's not like that as much.
If I find quality pieces, then it's a matter of, like, is it the processing once it gets here is exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I'm still not gonna spend a whole bunch of time on stuff. I don't like projects. So I just wouldn't pick it up if it's a project.
Sure.
If I'm looking even at an Eaton shirt in a thrift store, but it needs buttons,
Still a pass.
it's not my, yeah, no.
So what do you imagine like a weekly route would realistically look like? Is that going out every day? Is that going out 2 or 3 times a week? What do you think it would look like to, because like you said, you're gonna have to bring the listings down a little bit. And maybe if you're doing, just for an example, 140 a week, which would be 20 a day, maybe you do 100 a week, which would be like 15 a day. And so you get a little relief on the listing, the photograph, and the listing portion, but the profitability of those 100 is going to be a lot higher than the 150 at the other end.
Okay. The other option too is just to glean off all of the Forever 21s out of the boxes too. Cost
And
of
do
goods
what?
go up.
Yeah. And what, order more stuff?
Yeah.
Can you tell them no Forever 21 or it doesn't work that way? It doesn't work that way. So what, if you took out all the Forever 21, like what percentage of the bundles is that? Because like you said, we're already cutting off 10 to 15% as a loss, too much of a project, too much pilling, whatever, whatever. Are we talking like now 25% is going to be gone? So now you're going to have to order an additional inbound every single month?
I would say probably if I were going to do it that way, probably at least, okay, I'm saying 10 to 20% is already coming off the top.
Mm-hmm.
I redonate that. It's hot garbage or too much of a project for me to deal with. And then probably about 20% of what's left, 20-25% is those lower end brands, those Targets, those, the Mosmos, the Forever 21s, H&Ms, the stuff that is that, eight
Yeah, some of that
dollar
stuff is
profit.
brutal though.
Yeah.
Could you um maybe find a balance where maybe you hit a thrift route once a week, twice a week, still get the inbound, cherry pick the best out of the inbound. So now your costs maybe go up to 3 to 4 from two, from 3 to 4, and then
Okay.
hit a thrift route once a week. It'll probably be fun. Go out there just as supplemental. I think it's different, especially, for your position where you're getting it inbound. I think it's different having to go thrift rather than go thrift to supplement it and put it on top. Like my mission today is to go out and find the best items that I can because I'm already good at home. I got what I need at home, but to find the best items that I can find, bring those home because there's no doubt in my mind, and you did it before, you're gonna find a couple items that can make $100 profit
Oh
every
yeah.
single time you go out.
Yeah.
So so maybe you call out, that Massimo, that kind of stuff, because that stuff is tough. That stuff is really, really tough. Unless it's vintage Massimo, then we're talking a different story. But if it's
You know
Target
what? It's
Massimo,
so weird because I sell it every day and it makes me feel good to be able to sell it every day. So there's like this little bit of ego involved of like I can
no.
sell Massimo every freaking
Yeah,
day.
but what I would rather have a better ego of going to the thrift and finding $100
I
profits.
know, I know, I know, I know.
I For me, I would probably cull out that stuff. I would bring my average cost of goods to 3 or 4. I would hit the thrift at least once a week just to get outdoors, get some fresh air, peruse the rack, see what we can find. And
Sunshine, man.
that's what I would do. What is your average sale cost or your average cost of goods at the thrift over there?
Probably about 455.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap,
Wow.
cheap.
So that would probably bring like your global cost of goods from $2 to $4. And that would bring up your average profit from probably from 10 to the very least 15. Because it's going to be less thrift items. We're still going to be way heavy on the inbound items that are the more, but also if you eliminate this Massimo and stuff, does your average profit go from 10 to 12, 10 to 15 on that?
Now what? If I
Eliminate,
eliminate, yeah, if I eliminate it off the top, then yeah, the rest of the other half of stuff is probably in that 30 to
then
what.
your average profit probably goes from maybe probably around like $18.
So then it's just I either thrift or I just take off all of my Massimo and
Well, taking off the Massimo and that lower end stuff, you would replace that with the stuff at the thrift.
right. Okay.
So if you list, 15 pieces, or let's say you list 30 pieces a week of that real low end stuff, you hit the thrift and replace those 30 pieces with the better ones. So that way you got the very best of the inbound, and now you have even better 1 day a week, maybe 2 days a week out on the road, or 1 day a week and you hit maybe 2 or 3 stores. And then maybe that can bring you up to 15, 18, maybe even close to a $20 profit globally if you really are getting $30, $40 items delivered.
Interesting.
And it all just depends. Do you want to, list 3 items for every one item that you can go out and find?
It's all hard. That's that you and Hanley and Sam and
Yeah,
everybody is like, it's all hard.
it's all
We've
difficult.
all said that.
Yeah, so do you want to list 3 times versus finding one? That's what it is. It's list 3 times, photograph 3 times, ship 3 times, pick 3 times versus finding one. That's the difference.
That would be the question. Okay.
Yeah. And there is no
There's no
right
right
or wrong
answer.
answer. There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay, so back to my original question of like, where's the most, you know me. I know what the answer is.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, where's the most money to be made at?
Yeah. How
And
do
the
we fill
most
up our
money
bank
is
account?
the most money for me is the easiest route because I am not a consistent lister. That is like my one huge fault of not being like super consistent in my business. And so if I were actually to sit down and be realistic about it and I can be more consistent with less listings per day than trying to pound out. I'm screwing up my own business tag.
For sure. Because you're trying to do like the brute force bulk model.
I really am.
Like you're trying to
Killing
do brute
myself.
force. That's what you're trying to do. And
I
like,
am, which is something that I've always done. It's like the harder I work, the more money I'm going to make. There's something in my head that says I have to work like from the time I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning till
sure.
the time I go to bed, which is
Yep.
like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I have to be working that whole time, and I'm I'm tired,
I
man.
hear it. Yeah. And how long can you keep doing brute force? Like, how long can we do it? We can't.
I know.
So, but
But
here's the
it feels
thing.
like to me, and I think Isaiah struggles with this too, is that like if we're not working hard, it's coming from that like we watched our parents do this. You watched your mom do that.
Hmm.
Watched his mom do that. I watched my mom work really, really hard. I've always worked really, really hard. the harder we worked, the more money we made, the more money we made, we could stabilize the family.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like I've always worked hard. I've always done um not necessarily the smartest work, but like I've always worked hard and made a good living. And so it's hard for me to break out of that pattern of like hours worked equals large amounts of cash. And it wasn't until I met you that I realized what you did differently than I did 15, 17 years, however long it was. What you did differently is you went deep and you said, okay, how can I make the most money with the least amount of work? And I think it was because you were so busy. Well, not like, I mean, you worked hard, but you had other stuff going on
But
that prevented you from being able to like do that.
that's I think people don't understand that part that you just said. Make the most money with the least amount of work. I
That's
I
so
I
hard for
did
me to
that.
conceptualize.
No, I made the most money with the least amount of work. But once I found this segment of least amount of work, let's call it 10 items per day,
Yeah.
I just did the least amount of work at 20 items per day. I just did the least amount of work at 30 items per day. And eventually I did the least amount of work at 120 items a day. Because even though 120 items a day is a lot of work, I'm not a doctor. I'm not digging ditches. I'm not doing all this other stuff. Yeah, it was work, but for the amount of money that I was making, that was the least amount of work that I had to do to get that money.
Well, and I can physically put up 50 a day. I
Mm-hmm.
can. I know I can. 50, 60 a day is not like a huge amount of listings for me. Um, it's entirely possible. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's not easy, but it's it's still definitely in the realm of possibility. So I get what you're saying.
But like if you go to the thrift and you do, all right, if you do 50 a day at $10 profit, that's 500 bucks a day potential profit going up, which would be 3,500 a week. The problem is we have to do 50 every single day in order for that to happen.
Right.
And when people, I see it a lot because I talk to a lot of people, when we do this kind of brute force grind model, it's it's hard to do it every single day. So in our head, we have this plan to do 50 every single day, to put $500 profit up per day, to put $3,500 profit up per week. But odds are we're not doing it every single day. We might do it 3 or 4 days a week. And then
Right.
we get into this part where now we're putting up 150 a week, which is $1,500 profit. And that's not the business model that we're supposed to do. Whereas if we put up, 20 per day, at a $20 profit, that's 400 profit per day, which is less technically speaking than doing 50 at $10 profit. It's $100 less profit per day, but you could do 20 per day every single day.
Right.
Whereas 50 per day, you can't do 50 per day every single day. You're going to
Right.
miss some time. You're going to burn out. You're going to miss maybe a long stretch because you're burnt out, maybe miss a week, maybe miss 3 or 4 days. So like net 20 a day at a $20 profit. If you hit that every single day, that's 12,000 profit a month. If you do 50 a day 3 times a week, or 50 a day, 5 a day, 12 a day, 15 a day, here, and it averages out to 150 a week, that's going to give you $6,000 profit because that's only 600 listings at $10 profit. So like in one hand, we sit and we go, you know what? But with this model, I can make more profit, make more money. 50 a day, $10 profit. First, 20 a day, $20 profit. But net, you're gonna list more at 20 per day
Yeah.
versus the 50 per day, 100 miles an hour, burn out, fall back, burn out, fall back, burn out, fall back. And that's another tip right there. I A lot of my success is just because I was the most consistent and doing the same thing every single day. I'm capable, if I wanted to, I could list 400 items today. Can I do that every single day? I'm going to have a relapse. I can't do it. So I'm going to go up, come back down, up, come back
Yeah.
down, up, come back down. But 120 every single day is the tortoise or the hare. My business, a lot of people think, I went fast, I did this. I was the tortoise approach. I just wanted to hammer in every single day that 120, hammer in every single day that 20 a day, hammer in every single day that 30 a day, because rather than hammer and go take a day off, hammer, go take a day off, net, we just did it. 20 items a day at a $20 profit is going to be $12,000 in potential profit per month. The goal of 50 per day, but really realizing 150 per week, that's going to get you $6,000 profit per month, because that model is so much more difficult to pull off every single day, 7 days a week, and mess around and say, hey, I want to take 2 days off, Saturday and Sunday, because I don't want to do this grind. Now you have to do, 90 items per day, Monday through Friday, in order to get you, 100 items for the weekend. So
Yeah.
like the less per listing, but a little bit of a higher profit, which means maybe we got to go out and find better stuff, is more sustainable than grinding it out every single day of our life. That's hard to do.
All right. That makes sense.
But what we can't do though is drop our listings from 50 to 20 and have no increase
Quality.
in in our quality and in our profit.
Yeah.
That's what we can't do. Because then we're
I can't
voluntarily taking a
continue
pay
with the
cut.
Massimo and the Forever 21s and be able to make a living. I mean, I can eke out a living. I know I can do that. But it's not the life that I want to live. It's not
Sure.
owning a house living. And
So
so
so if you were to increase the profit, then you could list less per day. But like we talk about, it's easier said than done. For you, I no doubt in my mind you can increase your profit. The hard part is going to be going out and doing it.
right.
So like for you, how many stores realistically do you think you would have to go to kind of transform the business from the 50 a day bulk model brute force approach? Would it like 10
Honestly,
stores,
I'm
one
I'm a
store?
good picker though. And there's not a whole lot of resellers here. Don't tell anybody.
Because
Um,
when you went out and you found those items, I think you found a few Eatons that came out to probably $60 each, I would say, sell price. You
yeah,
found, I think, either one or two items that were going to sell for over 100. You found a nice jersey, I remember, that would sell for over 100.
yeah.
Um, and those are the kind of things we need. That
And I
like
found those in one day. Like that was one thrift store.
one store one day.
Yeah,
For me, I think it's a no-brainer. But of course, we all have our challenges, things like that. But like if you could call out that bottom 20% that you're doing and replace it with 20% of these higher quality ones,
yeah.
you're gonna make more money, and it's less of a workload. 50 a day is tough. I've been there before. It's tough.
It's brutal.
Even getting it delivered, it's tough.
It is. I've got boxes and I got a process that are in my foyer right now. You can see them through the banister. They're all
Hmm.
stacked up in there, and that's got to be, you know, opened. And I mean, I have two 8 bushel things here full of laundry that's still got to be processed. This is all the photography that's been done for me. I have
Nice.
two Blake people helping me with photography. That's all got to be processed and listed. So I've got stuff, everything is queued, but it's if I don't get my listings done, then I am the bottleneck in my
Yeah, it
business.
doesn't
And
matter.
that's no fun either. So
So I think like what you would have to assess and measure is like be realistic. Like, we say, hey, I list 20 a day. But if you're inconsistent, you're not really listing 20 a day. It's really maybe 12 a day, really 8 a day if you are not inconsistent. So maybe look at it like, go back to last month and see like how many did I really list last month? Was it really 50 times 30? Maybe. What was it? Was it 50 times 18 days? Maybe. And that's a different story. So The mission would be to increase the profit, which is a given. There's absolutely 0% chance you don't go to the thrift store and you don't increase your profit because you're not going to bring home an item you can make $10 profit on. And if you do, shame on you. Because that's not what we're there for. We're there to find $20. We're there to find more than $10
It's
profit.
not
That's what
the
we're there
Old
to do.
Navy and Up model that I was doing 10
No,
years ago.
we
Yeah,
already got that. We already got that.
we've,
So
we've been
so
there, done that.
if you hit the thrift route, there is a 0% chance you come home with less than items. 0%. Because you could just stay home and get that stuff. You don't have to go to the thrift route. So you're
No.
automatically going to leave those. The thing that you would have to measure is net, am I getting more listings up by being more consistent because the workload is a little bit less because my profit has gone up.
Right.
Now, if net your listings are not up month over month, then it's not going to work. So if last month you listed, 1,200 items and this month you list 900 going to the thrift, it's not gonna work. You're gonna be in the same position, same exact position.
The thing of it is, I think it's easier for me to mentally wrap my head around working for an hour and a half listing 20 things or 2 hours listing 30 things
I
than it
mean,
is for me to wrap my head around 3 or 4 hours listing 50.
but that 3 or 4 hours turns into 8 to 12.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
And like if you can list 50, challenge me to list 20. No problem. No
Yeah.
problem. No problem. And
This
and
is
you'll
a
probably
hard
be
pill. This is a hard pill for me to swallow. You have to understand. Like, I say this stuff to people all day long in the group. Like, it's like, I want you to know best practice so you know the consequences of what you're doing.
Mhm.
You need to understand the consequences of the decisions that you're making so you know, like, if I do it this way, I can continue on the way I'm doing it right now. I know what the consequences are. I know that if I shift it to the way you're talking about, you're explaining what the consequences are to me.
That's right.
We talk about that a lot. And I it
But that's important though, and I like that you use the word consequences because in the group I field thousands of questions. I never tell anybody what they should do. Never, not one time. The only thing that I explain is the consequences of both the decisions, and it's up to all of you guys to make the decision. I don't make any official recommendation. I don't tell people how they should run their business. Never.
yeah,
So, like in reality, you ask a question, I never answer the question directly. I lay out the consequences and then I put it on you. Now what decision are you going to make? We work it out, we talk it out because
right.
every model works. It's my job to help you figure out how to make your model work. There's a million ways to do this. No one has to do it the way that I did it. I don't recommend anyone. And in fact, I say most people shouldn't do the way that I did it because it was an absolute grind. I made a lot of sacrifices. I've never come on here and told anybody to do that. What
Right.
I come on here and do is figure out what do you do? What are you capable of? What do you want to do? And what path do you think is going to fill your bank account with the most money with the least resistance? And
Right.
now it's up to you to make the decision. And sometimes people make the right decision, great. Sometimes people make the wrong decision. I know it's the wrong decision, and we can circle back in 6 months, and I'm okay with that too.
Well, and I think I've been making the wrong decisions for a long time. Like, I've
That's
been
okay.
doing that grind model for such a long time that it's really it it's almost like lowering my pride to like say, okay, maybe I need to like shift the thought here. Maybe I need to not work so hard and just work smarter and think
Because
about
like we can't be on this hamster wheel, this treadmill forever. Like at some point, we have to figure out like that path of least resistance. And I like to like research everything. I like to know how the world works. I like to know like why does the grocery store door open when I walk through? Like I want to know everything about that. And the treadmill was invented as like a torture tool for people to actually tread and mill. Like that's what it was for, to like mill the field. They had this
right,
big contraption where a bunch of people would walk on it and it would mill the field. That's
right.
what a treadmill is. So like we can't be on that treadmill and mill the field. It was literally a torture device. That's what it was for. we are self-torturing ourselves a lot in business by being on this treadmill, going at a higher speed than maybe we necessarily don't need to go at if we made a couple little changes here or there.
I think it's a trap that a lot of resellers get into, though, is that they assume that the volume model is either the best model or, some other model, or on the other side of it, the high-end model. So they spend 8 hours sourcing for like five things, and those are the five things that take forever to sell. You know,
The trap with your model of inbound is we think it's easier.
it's not.
It's not, but we think it is because it's inbound.
It's inbound, but you get hot garbage too.
And the processing becomes the hard part.
Yeah.
So you would have to determine what's harder, processing and listing and fulfilling all of these orders of Massimo Forever 21, or is it harder to get in the car and hit one store per week and come home with 20 or 30 items?
I've got lots of donations apparently, so I think it's a little bit of both. I think, honestly, I think probably the next step that I need to take is to start sorting through and leaning more out of that to redonate or take to consignment or do something different with. And then just pulling the good pieces off and then doing a source like maybe one thrift store a day.
One a day.
Well, why not?
You could do one a day and bust 20. If you could do one thrift store a day and put up 20, holy cow, you would be swimming in money because I know the type of products you would be able to get.
I get good stuff when I go out, so
I was only asking one thrift store per week.
I know. Well, like if I were to really super clean, I think that would bring my cost of goods for the boxes to be about the same.
$4. That's how I got it on my
Three or
paper.
four,
$4
yeah,
globally.
3 or 4, and then yeah, 3 or 4 for the thrift store.
But your average profit would be easily $20 plus. So you would be turning $4 globally into $20 plus. Because the stuff you were picking up was really good stuff.
Yeah. So my cost of or my average sale price would go up from 20 to probably 30 to 40, right?
That would be great.
That'd be amazing.
And so now we're back in the same boat where all that Massimo, that Forever 21, you're doing three times versus one time. Just the one time you got to get in your car and go get it.
Right.
So three listings, three sales, three fulfillments, three customers, three potential returns, three slots at bookkeeping, three listings, three photos, three everything versus get in the car.
Yeah.
But in order for that to work, the listings also got to come with it. So the consistency has to come with it as well.
Right. Yeah.
But
It means that I'd have to like really schedule it and not use thrifting as an excuse for me to not put my listings.
that's right. That's right.
I do much better if I have like the same schedule every day. So like
Hmm.
when I did my YouTube channel, it was every day, Monday through Friday. That's what I did. I'm starting it back up again.
That would be great. I love
I
listening.
know, I know. But then the uh the listing has to happen every single day, at least Monday through Friday. I have to be able to list the same amount. Otherwise, if I get off track, it's really hard for me to
Are you
process.
are you rolling with any kind of draft bank at the moment or no?
Yeah, I've got about 50 in there right now. My
15 or
goal is
50?
by the end of the year, 50.
Oh, nice.
My goal by the end of the year is to have 500 drafts.
If you're doing 20 a day, that's like 3 weeks of drafts.
Yeah, that's always been my goal.
When you get a large draft bank, do you use that as a crutch and not list as much?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then it diminishes,
I
and now we
love
got to go back to list.
the challenge that's happening right now with Sheila has been really helping me adjust how strict I am with my draft bank. because she has said, it's Sheila in the group has said, you have no reason to, you can't steal from it.
That's right. And so the draft bank, I think that, when we start stealing from it, we think the idea of a draft bank is that if we can't do our work, the draft bank is there for us. That's our safety net. So like if something happens today, we could just go and run to the drafts, right? But I think that the way we should look at the draft bank is that if something happens today, the draft bank is there to allow me flexibility today to still get my work done. It
Right.
might not get done at the right time. It might not get done early in the day, late in the day. It might not get done when it's supposed to get done, but the draft banks allows me the flexibility today to get my work done today. It's not the draft bank allows me the flexibility not to do it today.
Still launch my drafts in the morning, but
Yeah.
then I have until like whenever to get my
Mm-hmm.
listings up. Yeah, and that's kind of a shift that I've made in my head, and that's helped a lot.
Nice.
Shifting it to make my draft bank, because I always thought of my draft bank as a way to get out of like
Right.
working on Wednesdays when I'm teaching, or
Mm-hmm.
get out of working on the weekends. And it's like, no, if I'm not gonna list on Wednesdays because I'm teaching, or Tuesdays, sorry, on Tuesdays because I'm teaching, or I'm not going to list on Saturday and Sunday because I want to have the weekend off. I need to plan ahead for that. And that needs to be
That's
in
right.
addition to the regular amount that I'm putting into my draft bank that is supposed to cover me in an emergency.
That's right.
So,
And with doing 20 a day, if you did 25 a day Monday through Friday, now you legitimately would be able to have the weekends off. And if you were able to go out and find 25 pieces at the thrift, there's no doubt in my mind you can't find 25 pieces at the thrift. You get the photos done and you just got to sit down and bust out 20 listings that maybe you might be excited to list. Not Massimo. Massimo's not excited to sit down and
it's not
get
very
on the
exciting.
keyboard. But if you find something nice out there and you're excited to list it, like if you go to one thrift per day, you can find 25 items. Maybe you got to pop in two, they're close together. You can find 25. Your photos are going to be done, and you sit down and you just got to list 25 items. That's going to take you an hour.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. That's a schedule right there.
that's the
And the money's
schedule.
going to be way better. And they in this 25 schedule, you get 2 days off per week, Saturday and Sunday off, off.
Really off. Other than lunch and drafts, that would be really nice.
Thought you were gonna say other than lunch, and I was gonna say, wait a second.
No, launching.
So what do you think, Michelle?
I think you've helped me. I know what I need to do. I think you've convinced me that it's been in the back of my head of what I needed to do for a long time. It's like I need to go back out. I need to like venture out of my house a little bit, and get back on a thrift route because I know I'm really good at that.
Yeah,
But I have been dragging my heels because I got stuck in the trap of like this is so much easier, but it's
but
really
it's not
not.
easier. Yeah.
It's not. It's all hard. It's
Wow.
all really, really hard. It's just that
Like,
I convinced myself that I can do the processing, and I'm so good at I'm not good at the processing. I'm
no,
not
yeah.
consistent with the processing. I'm crappy with the processing. And so I need to like shift my thinking into, and it's not doing the least amount of work. It's doing the best amount of work. It's it's doing, like in my area, I have the opportunities, and looking at the opportunities that are in my area of finding more quality product, for a relatively small amount of price, um, and getting my profit margins up. It's silly for me to have low profit margins because they're low price. Whereas my prices can still stay like universally low compared to other people in the country.
Because your
And
buying cost is cheaper too at the thrift.
yeah, because my buy cost is fairly cheap there. And have a much higher quality.
Quicker sell through, quicker money turning. See that's something. If you live somewhere rural where you have a lower cost of goods, that's something everybody should be exploiting.
Yeah,
Like that, because we go all the way back to the beginning where you have that lower cost of goods at the thrift where you can arbitrage that to the world.
yeah,
Whereas a lot of people, they might live in the city, they don't have that low cost of goods at the thrift, and it's more challenging for them as a thrifter. Where if you're a little more rural, if the thrift hasn't caught up, if they're not hip to the game, we need to be exploiting that and
yeah,
taking it from our little country bumpkin town and bringing it to the world. Because I do the opposite. When I go to the country bumpkin towns, I exploit that it's so cheap there that I can take it home to my city and I could do what I got to do.
right.
I even do the same thing with real estate. Where I buy real estate, they're 15, 20 years behind. I do what's popping over here, I do it over there because they're not there yet. So we have to exploit that arbitrage between if we got it available where, hey, my town, this is my advantage. The cost is a little bit cheaper. I need to bring this cheaper cost to a worldwide market where it's going to command a premium.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. That makes total sense.
I think the idea of hitting the thrift, listing 25 a day, Monday through Friday, having weekends off with a higher profit per item, because the photos are already going to be done. That's 1 hour of computer time per day. That's a beautiful life right there.
That's a good life. 1 hour, yeah, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours in the thrift store, and then 1 hour of actual like
Computer work.
computer work, an hour, hour and a half maybe of computer.
Yeah.
That's that's good retirement stuff, man.
And if you can get to the point where you're listing and selling around the same amount, let's say you're listing 20 a day and let's say you're selling 15 a day at a $20 profit, you're bringing home $300 a day profit at that model. And we're talking about if you get this dialed in, literally like around a half day of work.
Yeah. That what is that? That equates out to 100, little over 100K a year. Is
Yeah,
that
110.
100K?
110 with
Profit.
110 profit with
Yeah.
around a half day of actually doing work, going out, listing. Doesn't take long to pack out 20 items.
No.
And then you got the rest of the day to do whatever you want to do,
Right. Wow.
to go process your muscle.
Well, yeah, if I really wanted to have giggles and decided, I think though, once I get in the swing of doing this, that once I'll be like, what have you been doing all these
It's
years?
okay. Remember, once upon a time, you drove cross country in a Penske with China.
I
So
know, yeah. So there you go.
it was good.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Michelle.
Chad.
That was a good conversation. I think that will help a lot of people. Tell everyone, leave some folks with some fine word with some kind words and maybe where they can find you. And I just want to say that I appreciate everything that you bring to the group. You are a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge. I learn stuff every single time I watch your call, especially about the women's clothing, because that's a little bit foreign to me. I still can hold my own over there, but
You're
I'm
doing
not an expert.
good. I don't know if it's you or Mrs. Tech, but one of you is putting up really good keywords and stuff
For
into
which ones?
for your women's clothing.
Oh yeah, really,
I'm starting to see some keyword work in there. Yeah.
of course, of course. I'm learning on your call. Honestly, I'm learning keywords on your call, and I learned the keywords from the show and tell with Stasia and Dana a lot. A
Yeah.
lot with those guys. They have very, very cool stuff. And also Rachel's Poshmark call. I learned a lot of the keywords there, a lot of the
She's
brands
awesome.
too. So I just want to,
She comes in on my call and she helps me with fabric and things like that.
yeah.
She's like I always know that she's sitting in the background listening. She's really awesome. And I can always go, Rachel, Rachel, help me.
You there's certain people on Zoom, you're doing a good job where they're going like this.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I could just see like the back of Rachel's head and she's going like this. I go, okay, I'm on the right
Yeah,
path.
I'm on the right path. I'm not being completely insane. Or when I'm talking about SEO and I know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
and I see people that are like involved in that world and they're nodding. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Okay.
not giving you bad information. Okay, that's why I make everybody be camera on my calls. But
Yeah,
no, like,
just for some
well,
reassurance.
yeah, exactly. It's like, am I on the right track? Please give me feedback. But that's one of the things that like I also want to encourage people that you don't have to be an expert in fashion. I was not.
Nope.
When I started doing this business, I knew nothing about fashion. So like it can all be learned. I consider myself an expert now because I learned and
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit every day and I did the research and I did the hard work and it is possible for you to become an expert in your niche even if you're a complete beginner today.
That's right.
And so I encourage people to just dive in and figure it out. So and you teach me stuff every day. So or gently push me in the direction that I kind of like my weaknesses. We've known each other for a long time and you can tell me stuff. So like
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of push me gently in the direction of where I need to go. So I appreciate that of you. So
Yep, for sure. Good conversation. If you do want to catch Michelle on the YouTube machine, Reseller Project, maybe she
yep.
fires it back up. It would be good. Have some chats. Maybe if you're doing 20 a
I've
day, you got some time to turn it on and talk for a couple
I've
minutes every
I've
day.
got it. I've got a couple of them queued up starting Monday. So like,
All right.
yeah, I'm actually getting a little bit ahead on the YouTube. I'm starting to queue some up and so there'll be some videos starting Monday,
Exciting.
hopefully on a regular basis. So now
Exciting.
now that you've cut my work down, my workload down, well,
Still
into
work.
a different direction.
Yeah, it's still work, but you could do it.
You're kicking me out of the house, but like other than
That's
that,
it. I'm
but
kicking you out of the house of Massimo and Forever
I
21.
know.
You're out of here.
Oh, so
Very
glad.
good. Thank you,
All right.
Michelle. I appreciate it. I always like talking to you. You're the
Thank you,
best. Thank
Jack.
you. Be great.